What's up, y'all? It's your boy Romance coming through with Thanksgiving World According to Romance. Live here at France Land. We just got done eating our Thanksgiving dinner together, but we eat in at lunchtime, so everybody can go do their stuff with the rest of their family here. So it's very early, so I figured I'd give you a little what's up and history of Thanksgiving. Now, here in America, we celebrate Thanksgiving. It's probably the second biggest holiday of the year besides Christmas, and definitely the kickoff of what we call the holiday season. Um, but Thanksgiving goes back to now. America loves to think of itself as uh, being founded by the Puritans and the Pilgrims in Boston and Massachusetts, and that is true. A lot of our heritage and our as a cultural identity, it did start in Boston. A lot of what we call America kind of started there, and well, let's start where we start. We all know 1620 is when the Pilgrims landed. Now, the year of 1620 was hell on the Pilgrims. They lost the first boatload that came here, lost over 50% of the people, and they did not know how to survive. They did not know anything about the climate. They really didn't know much about farming in America. They only knew how to farm in Europe, and a lot of the crops and so forth didn't grow here that they brought, so they were kind of screwed the first year. They kind of like started becoming cool with the Indians in the area. They didn't know it, but before they even got here, but long before 1620, sailors from Europe and all over the world were showing up on the shores of Philadelphia and New York. There wasn't like the Pilgrims discovered Massachusetts, but it was just if you had to get on a boat, had due west across the Atlantic Ocean, you will first hit Newfoundland, and the ocean current will take you down the east coast of the North American continent, and they called that the mainland. That's where the name Maine came from for the state of Maine. Every time they'd pass through Canada, they'd pass the St. Lawrence River. The next thing they'd hit is they'd call it the mainland or the Maine, and that's where the state of Maine got its name. And then Massachusetts is really the first big good harbor with a nice decent sized river. There with a good place to build a good big city that you'll find, and that's where the Pilgrims landed. Now on the first Thanksgiving, uh, it was actually in the year of 1621, after the hellish year of 1620. They got through that winter, and 1621 came, and the spring came, and they grew some crops, and they learned how to grow corn from their Indian friends. It wasn't a massacre. It wasn't slicing up Indians. A lot of stories are out there, like, like that are false. And I'm not saying that like the white man or the English settlers and the Indians weren't all guilty of atrocities that happened afterwards. But the first Thanksgiving was kind of cool, and everyone, shared food and whatever. Really, the Indians were worried about the white settlers because they were like watching them. They're like, man, these people don't know how to do shit, man. They can't grow food, nothing. Fortunately, there was a Indian named Squanto who was friends with Governor Winthrop, who would later go on to be the governor of Boston. He lived in England for a while. He was an Indian that like went on a fishing boat before the Indians came, or before the Pilgrims came in 1620, and he lived in England for a while and knew how to speak both English and I think it's Penobscot. I forget what language the Indians of Massachusetts spoke. There was a lot of variations in their language at the time. But anyway, Squanto was a guy who could speak to both the English and the Indians, and he was kind of the arbiter of the first Thanksgiving dinner. Now, at the first Thanksgiving, at all Thanksgiving dinners, we have things that are indigenous to America. The turkey is one of four animals that were domesticated by the Indians before the white man got there. The dog, the alpaca, and the llama are the other three, and those were all found far away. The turkey somehow was domesticated all throughout the Americas before the white man got here. And there is wild turkeys as well. But the turkey was not on the first Thanksgiving table. On the first Thanksgiving dinner table, they did not have turkey that year. They had deer meat and they had lobster. Lots of lobsters up in Maine, or in New England, Massachusetts. So anyway, but it would go on. Turkey would end up going on to be the centerpiece of most Thanksgiving celebrations, because an English feast, the way the English like to eat and have a feast, is they like to have a centerpiece, like a blow-away item that is huge, and you can dress it up and put all kinds of fixings around it, and then serve it to everyone, and everyone gets a little bit of it and eats it. And the turkey, once it was probably not until like 3 or 4 years later until the turkey started making its way on the Thanksgiving dinner table. But everything, ever since then, it's been the staple. And a turkey is we think of turkey is got a negative connotation in our language in modern day. It was jokingly, not seriously, later on hinted at by Ben Franklin that it should be our national bird, because really, of all the birds in the North American forest, the turkey is like the lion. It's like the biggest, baddest of the birds. Eagles sometimes eat carrion, and they're kind of creatures that are not always on the up and up. They eat eggs of other birds. They sometimes can do dirty shit, but like a turkey is kind of a noble creature. And a majestic creature. If you ever seen a turkey walking around, and when it blows out its feathers and gets all angry or whatever it does, it's pretty big and menacing. But anyway, the beans, squash, cranberry, that's all stuff that is native to Massachusetts, and that's what we're eating on Thanksgiving. Corn is the first, actually anywhere on Earth, the first shot anyone took at the getting out of hunting and gathering and going to farming was actually happened in the Americas in 10,000 BC. It's believed that corn started to become grown purposely, and like what you see of a corn on the cob today is not what it originally looked like. It looked like grass, but they kept growing it and figuring out how to do it. And what you see today in corn eventually, through genetic engineering, became what it is. And that is the staple crop of America. It's a staple crop of what we eat. Like something like 1 out of every 3 things that you can buy in a grocery store at this point has corn in it. So anyway, the Puritans did not celebrate Halloween. They did not celebrate Christmas. They thought it was sacrilegious. But Thanksgiving was something it was completely cool. The Bible said it's good to give thanks. All across the board, no matter what religion you were, no matter who you were, Thanksgiving can apply to you and is good money for you. So what a perfect holiday for a place like America, where everyone of every walk and climb and every religion was supposed to come and be welcome. So it became a tradition in pre-United States America. Okay, and you got to remember, 1620 is when the Pilgrims got here and started this tradition, or 1621. 1776 is when America becomes a nation, and that was 240 years ago. So we were here for over 150 years before even America started celebrating Thanksgiving every year. And it was a very undefined thing. There wasn't a definite day. It was kind of just like, and it was a harvest festival. Once the crops were done and growing, chop them down, cut open a turkey, get ready, we're going to have a dinner, and we're going to have a feast, and it's going to be Thanksgiving. So there was never really a set date, and Thanksgiving happened on different days in different places all over the United States, and it did catch fire. It wasn't just a Massachusetts thing, especially once United States became a nation. Thanksgiving was part of that identity. But George Washington celebrated Thanksgiving. Okay, Samuel Adams celebrated Thanksgiving, and they didn't all didn't all do it on the fourth Thursday of November like we do. It was just kind of any time after the crops started after harvest and before Christmas. It wasn't until the 1863, sometime in the middle of the Civil War, 1863, 1864, Abraham Lincoln was looking for anything to unify this nation, and One thing that he did was he declared that it would now be on every Thursday. The fourth Thursday of every November is when we would officially have Thanksgiving as a nation. And ever since then, it's been that way. Although something was different. Maybe it was I maybe think Lincoln did it on the Saturday. Somehow it wasn't. What Lincoln did wasn't the end all be all. It wasn't until FDR came along that Thanksgiving, as we know it, came along, and also the shopping season began in preparation for Christmas and the commercial aspect of the holiday that we know now. The whole, what's now we call Black Friday, like that all started coming around. The shopping thing was an FDR thing, and it was also around a little bit before, probably during the FDR administration, but early on during it in the late 1930s. Detroit, a big football city, and it was a time in this country where the Lions were a kick-ass team. I guess they needed they have a big, huge Thanksgiving parade every year. Most cities do, and they wanted to bolster their parade attendance, and they also wanted to bolster the amount of advertisement they were getting on the radio for. To make money. So they moved, the owner of the Detroit Lions moved his game for his team from Sunday, the fourth Sunday of the November, to Thanksgiving Day. So there'd be an actual football game, a professional football game every year on Thanksgiving. Now, television wasn't invented yet. Television and televised football would not come along until the very late 1950s, very early 1960s. And it was right around then that a dude named Tex Schramm had just started a team called the Dallas Texans. They were actually they would end up moving to Kansas City, but he would start another team called the Dallas Cowboys. And he wanted to, in the 1960s, he said, hey, man, he went to the owners of the NFL and said, hey, we're starting to get TV here. My team's got the star in their helmet. We're going to end up being America's team. How can I pay you? How can I get you to be down with letting me also play with the Detroit Lions every Thanksgiving on a Thursday, and we'll televise it, and then people could watch the game and see all the commercials for the NFL while they're celebrating with their family. Somehow the NFL went along with it, and it's been that way ever since, and that is our Thanksgiving tradition. I was woefully unprepared. Everything that I've just told you came out of my brain. I did no studying whatsoever, and I apologize if you got me on anything wrong. Hit me, call me out. My information could be bunk, but I'm pretty sure I got everything right. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Man, it's been a rough year for me, and I hope next year is better. But I hope you have the greatest season of joy with your family and your children as well. God bless. God bless us all. Happy Thanksgiving. World according to Romance. Peace.